Hello there YouTubes. Now, as my last video on fitting a diesel heater was quite popular, and as I was so impressed with the heater, bought another one. Now this one is to go in my dad's summer house. Good morning there YouTubes. Now, as my last diesel heater video was quite popular, well, it's more popular than my bike videos for some strange reason, you bunch of weirdos. But anyway, maXpeedingrods diesel heater, as it was quite popular, I bought another one. And the reason I got this one is for my dad's summer house on his boatyard. It's a big wooden shed, they call it a summer house, it's just a shed. But anyway, I bought one to fit to his summer house. So what I'm going to do is a very quick, not really an unboxing video, but a quick video to show you what parts come with this kit and the parts that I've bought to basically fit it. I'll show you the tools that I use, which obviously you can pick and choose what you use, but the tools that I use to fit one, and probably the installation. I may do the installation video, I may not. I'm gonna have a think about that one. But very quickly, what we have here, and I have got the camera on a little tripod, which hopefully will work. So what we have here is very simply, this is a 240 AC to 12 volt DC converter. What you have is your live, your neutral and your earth from the AC, if you can see that, from the AC feed, and at the other end you've got your DC 12 volt output. So that's basically what I use to power the heater. So that's nice and easy. What I then have off of good old trusty eBay is a bracket. Now you can see the holes on the top. There are multiple holes, so you can actually fit the heater either way round on this, which is quite nice. And these are only cheap, these are sort of like about 6 or 7 quid. And it looks like it's galvanised. One way to find out how long that lasts. But that means that you can stand it off of the floor if you want to, or I don't know if you can mount them sideways. I think I have seen a video where you mounted it sideways, but I'm not going to mount it sideways. It will be mounted upright in the conventional way. But yeah, these are cheap. So sit the heater on there, and obviously that keeps it off the floor to give you the space for the inlet and the exhaust, which obviously come out the bottom of the heater. So that's that. Then in the box we have a fuel tank. Now I know on the cheaper kits, and they are cheaper, they're some of them about sort of 40 quid, 30, 40 quid cheaper. But with the maXpeedingrods version, you don't have to drill these tanks. And the fittings, if you saw my old video and I spoke about the vent hole that I plugged and use a different fitting for, that's the vent hole. So obviously if you're fitting this outside, think about where the tank's going to go and whether it's going to get water into the cap. And I don't know if you can see in there, there is another small vent hole. But if I can shake it out one-handed, just pop that down. Don't make this easy, do they? There we go. What you have in there, if you can see it, is some self-tapping screws, and then the fitting to fit to the bottom of the tank with an O-ring and a couple of spacers washers. So that's the fitting kit for the tank. We'll chuck that back in there. just so I don't lose it. But a lot easier with that fitting on the bottom, so you haven't got to drill and not tap, but drill it. And then in here we have lift it out one-handed. Sorry about the videography, obviously it's me just making a video to make it easier for you guys. I hate polystyrene, horrible stuff. But this is the heater, and I know that these are generic Chinese heaters, but as I say, the maXpeedingrods company, whoever they are, do make a few improvements on them. And the one that we bought for the wife's office has actually got polystyrene maXpeedingrods moulded into the top cover. So you've got your, obviously your inlet and your exhaust with the fuel feed at the bottom there. You've got your exhaust there. Obviously the heater works by burning the fuel. That cast element in there gets hot, air blows through it, comes in one end cold, comes out the other end warm. So warm that when it's running at a decent temperature, you probably can't put your hand over the vent. It is that warm. Obviously you've got your socket there, and then top cover that removes. Fairly straightforward. So, box in the bottom. Bear with me, I'm just going to pause this video. Right, and I'm back. Sorry for the delay there. It was twofold actually. The first was I realised that I was never going to pull this box out of that box one-handed, and then I needed a Stanley knife just to pop the tape. The other part of it was I was rudely interrupted by my 17-year-old daughter who had a spider in her bedroom. Can you believe that? Hopefully she's going to watch this and be horrified. Anyway, update on the spider. Couldn't find it. By the time we got back upstairs, it had gone. So, what do we get in the box? You get some gloves, maXpeedingrod gloves. They're just your usual cheap and cheerful gloves, but they're a freebie. So, well, it's that freebie, you pay for them, but there's a quid's worth there. You get a packet in here. I will empty it out. In here you get, oh, Jesus Christ, it's just started raining. It is absolutely pouring down, it's coming in the door. Bear with me. Bloody hell. That's not good. Okay. Right, sorry about the light then. We've lost the natural light due to the beautiful English weather. In here we have, there you go, let's put this down. Oh, okay. That's the top of the tripod. It was only a cheap plastic tripod. That's broken off and left the other half in the bottom of the camera. I'll fix that another time. Right. In here we have a selection of cable ties. We have 4 Jubilee clips for fitting the vent pipes to the either end of the heater. You have a rubber fitting, that's for the fuel pump. You have 4 studs. These studs are for the mounting bolts in the bottom of the heater. One, 2, 3, 4. Now I use a little dab of Loctite on these, and obviously you can see where there's a shoulder, if you can see that. Can you see that? There's a shoulder on the stud. and they go in shoulder end into the pump rather than the long end. If you screw the long end in, you're probably going to break something, because that shoulder there is to basically stop the stud from screwing in any further. A couple of P-clamps. If you put them that way around, they make a P. That's what I've always called them anyway. P-clips, P-clamps. That's just for the vent pipe. You could use them for the exhaust as well, if you want. Again, sorry about the reflection. We'll try and move it. 4 smaller Jubilee clips. They're for the inlet and the exhaust. I'm not a fan of these, to be honest. It could do with some better clamps. And certainly if you're going to put heater in an enclosed space, I would use some, around the exhaust anyway, I'd use some exhaust paste and a better clamp, because these aren't really that suitable. Then we have a selection of fuel clamps. Now the other kit I bought had proper screw fittings rather than these spring fittings. They're not great, but they are what they are. Then here you've got some more screw fittings for mounting, and then we have a single screw and washer, screw and nut, that's for the fuel pump. And then you've got 4 nuts, which obviously fit to these studs, and they mount that to the base that I bought, the galvanised steel base that I bought that you saw. So I think it might stop raining, so I'm going to open the door, get some light in, and try and bodge another tripod, and then see if I can bolt this together, just to show you how it fits together. So catch you in a few moments. Right, I'm back, YouTubes. I've rigged up a separate little light because it is absolutely hammering down outside, which is lovely. So let's carry on with the parts we get. In here we have I have found another little tripod, but it's a bit crap. Exhaust. These are pretty bog stock. They do go one way or the other, because you've got, if you can see there is a small drain hole. So obviously the bolt hole goes at the top, allows any condensation and vapour to drain out the bottom. And then you've got a bracket for it as well, and a couple of fitting bolts, which are just to locate the bracket to a wall or whatever you want to put them to. Now these self-tappers are designed to go through metal, so unless you're going through metal, you're going to want some wood screws to replace these, but that's pretty straightforward. Wiring loom, self-explanatory. You've got is this sticky tape? Okay, won't worry about that. Fuse, I don't know what the fuse rating is on this. I'll soon tell you actually. Blue, what's blue? Is that 10 amp? 15. So 15 amp bladed auto fuse, nice and easy. You've got your main socket that goes into the heater. You've got your positive and negative. Obviously negative is normally black, but for some reason we've got blue here. And then you have got this socket is for the fuel pump. It's fitted just by depressing the clip on the top and sliding it on. To remove it, depress the clip, pull it off, nice and easy. You get these on like car fuel injectors and stuff like that. And then finally that's going to be for your remote control. In here we have a fuel pump. Now these fuel pumps, you can see it's been opened and it's got fingerprints on, and it will be wet because they test them. So this should be a quieter fuel pump than the normal ones. Time will tell. And obviously you use the rubber bracket that pushes onto there. They can be quite stiff. And then just beware, you do have flow for the pump, so make sure, if you can see that, make sure you get the pump the right orientation when you fit it, otherwise it won't work. But it will work, you just won't get any fuel. Now surprisingly and disappointingly, this comes with a crappy fuel hose. So I've only just seen this. I think I'll be writing them an email, because they're supposed to replace this hose. This hose is shite, as you can see. It's squishy, and apparently bleeding air bubbles and stuff out of this hose is a nightmare. So that can go. I'm not fitting that. I'm a bit pissed off about that, to be fair. That's a splitter, if you can see that. I'll turn it around so you can see the other side. So obviously hot air goes in there and then can come out either end should you wish. Exhaust wrap. So if you need to insulate the exhaust, you can use this. Always wear gloves with this stuff because it is a bit spiky. It's like a fiberglass material. Now to fit this, I'm guessing they suggest you can use the steel ties, that steel Jubilee clips if these goes big enough, but go on eBay and look for some stainless steel cable ties. That's the better way of fitting those, stainless steel cable ties. Exhaust pipe, self-explanatory. Take the tape off before you fit it. That's probably there just to keep the ends safe because they will be sharp, so take the tape off before you put it on. Obviously one end goes into the heater, one end goes into the exhaust pipe. Pair of outlets, so when you put it through a wall, obviously the hose pushes on there. There's the hose, there is the hose. Goes on there through a wall, and then these are directional, so you can change the angle of the airflow. And there's a pair of those. When I fitted this on my wife's office, the box that I made that you may have seen, I actually cut this off and then I bonded it on with some 3-bond silicone just to keep the water out. So obviously I just modified one of those. This is your inlet hose that fits the bottom of the heater, and in the box you have an air filter. I have seen people drill holes in the fronts of these, not quite sure why, because if they were designed to be drilled, they'd be drilled already, but obviously there is a slight thread on there. As you can see, there's a bit of a, so that would screw on. And it does actually screw on, there you go, that's quite a nice tight fit. And then you've got a hose clamp, Jubilee clip to go on there should you want it. So yeah, air filter. Now this is the part that I modified when I replaced the fuel cap. And what I actually did was I cut this off about there and about there. I bent that end over and then just put a bit of pipe on it, and then I drilled the cap and obviously screwed that through the cap, because as you know, if the cap is set up right in storage, imagine the tank is there and you're going to get water in there. So yeah, effectively I just fitted that in there, then bent the end over to keep the water out. If that makes sense? Hopefully it does. Then in here, this is the LCD LED controller. So you have the controller there, which is generic Chinese controller. You see a lot of them come with these, pretty standard. And then attached to it is, if I can disconnect that, a remote control with a cover for the buttons so you can keep it in your pocket. Not quite sure why you keep it in your pocket, wandering around with it, but on off, and then that's just temperature up and down with a funny cover. Yeah, again, well, you know, it is what it is. Then we have a stock base plate, which means obviously this goes on the bottom of the heater, and then you can screw or bolt it to something. But again, I've got the I've got this version, which I prefer because that's easier to mount. You can just screw this straight down to something should you need to, or you can actually space it up on blocks of wood or whatever you want to do. And you probably saw the fitting of the one that I did if you've seen that video. And just makes it a bit easier. Uprated fuel filter. Again, if you saw the previous video, apologies if you can hear the rain, it is absolutely pissing down. This has got a flow arrow, if you can see that, so make sure that you do have it the correct way around. I would unscrew this and fill that full of fuel. Make sure obviously that the drain at the bottom's tight. Fill that full of fuel. It will save you a lot of time, because that takes, the pumps something like 0.2 cc's at each stroke. That takes a long time to fill up, so prime that before the before you use the filling sequence. It will save you a lot of time. Then we have a spare filter of some sort. Don't know where that goes. Does that go in there? I don't think so. So does it go in there? Let's have a look. No, that's the filter on its own. Okay. I did see that in the other kit actually, I forgot to mention it. And I didn't know where it went then. Yeah, a filter of some sorts. I will look at the instructions. Then finally, you've got the instruction manual, which, being a bloke, I didn't really read. I read the first part of it, but obviously it tells you which heater's which and what it does. So that is a basic unboxing. I'm going to bolt it together very quickly so you can see how I'm going to mount it, and I'll talk you through that. So back in a minute. Right then, now if I could be asked to actually do proper editing, I'd put one of those funny faces up on one of the signs and the vocal that goes a few moments later, but obviously I'm not going to. This is how I intend to mount this heater. This is going to be an outside fit. So very basically what I have done is I have mounted the plate, the eBay plate, to two strips of timber, as you can see, because this is going to be mounted on a wooden decking, and that gives me the opportunity to screw it to the floor. It's going to be mounted outside. So you can see that we have the fuel feed, the inlet, which is the brown pipe, and the exhaust, which is the silver pipe, with the silencer on the end, bolted to the plate. Now if I spin it around, you'll get to see what I've done the other side. Now this is going to be the side of the wall, if you can imagine a wall is here. So the exhaust pipe can screw to a bracket up against the wall. This doesn't actually get very hot. You can probably put your hand on it, and if I need to I can wrap it. The inlet is over here, and obviously again that can be mounted somewhere if you want to. that's away from the exhaust, just so it doesn't recirculate the air and you get a cleaner burn. Now, fuel pump wise, the hose that comes with the kit, disappointingly, and I wasn't expecting it, is the crappy green rubber hose. Now, luckily, as you can see, I did still have some solid hose left over from fitting the wife's heater. So all I've done is I've used the green hose to bridge between any fittings and the proper solid hose. That's just a little cable tie just to hold that secure, although I need two hands. Just rotate it round so the fitting is near the hose, just to give it a bit of extra space. Now, what I did notice when I used that hose is that the standard clips that they provide, which are these ones here, aren't then big enough, or should I say small enough, to fit the hose. However, in my stash of motorcycle parts, I had some 6mm clips from eBay, hose clips, and they work perfectly. So 6mm will bridge the nice solid nylon hose, which is 4 by 1mm, to the crappy green rubber hose. The pump at the moment is mounted to the frame. I don't know if you can see that. Basically, I just drilled a small hole through there, through the plate, and then, excuse the noise, and then screwed that in, because that has to sit at an angle of, I think it's between 30 and 45 degrees, which that is. This then feeds to the fuel filter, which will be bolted against the wall. Let me spin it around. So you get the idea. So that'll be the back wall, that'll be the fuel filter bolted to it. There's the tank will sit above, and obviously will feed there. The outlet, which will go into the room, is there, and obviously that will go into a room, and then the other side will be the vent. So I hope you can visualize all of that. What I will do is I will screw it to the wall or to the door, just so you can see it loosely assembled, to give you an idea, and I hope that helps. Right then, I've bolted it very crudely to my workshop door, just to show you how the installation is going to be. So you can see the fuel filter will be fitted to the back wall. The door, in effect, is showing you what the back wall is going to be. Obviously the hose will be going through the wall. Pretend that's the wall, you get the idea. The exhaust pipe can be bolted again to a wall. You have to imagine the wall comes out a little bit further. It will be off of the decking, but obviously I can wrap that if I need to. Now this is going to be in a covered area, so it's not too much of an issue. And then obviously the fuel tank can be mounted as and where. Now the fuel tank can be up to 3 meters away from the pump, so the pump will cope with quite a big draw, so 3 meters. So basically that's what the installation looks like. I will now show you the electrics, because the electrics are a little bit more, I wouldn't say awkward, but there is a slight issue with the kit that they send, which I'm going to detail now. As promised, the issue with the wiring. Okay, there's your 12 volt transformer, 240 in AC, 12 volt DC out, which is obviously what a vehicle would normally use, or 24 volt if it's an HGV. Obviously that's just chopped off, just to give you an idea of the wiring. I would mount that somewhere weatherproof. When I fitted it to the wife's office, obviously it's inside a box. This one will be going inside the building, inside the summer house. Now the issue we have is, obviously, there's your live. Alright, obviously if you can see in there, you've got terminals for negative as well. Follow the cable. It is a nice long cable. It's very nice and long. However, when we come to the main wiring loom, which is here, there's your negative. and there's the socket that fits to the pump, sorry, not the pump, to the heater. Now obviously if this was a vehicle fit, you would just fit this earth cable to part of the body of whatever you're putting it in, you know, into your car or whatever, or your camper van more likely. So that's why you get probably 5-6 feet to your live, because that's got a stretch to a live in the vehicle, whereas your negative can go to whatever is a decent earth nearby it. So what I plan to do is get some wire. It's obviously got to be a similar gauge because it's quite a heavy draw for current for the glow plug, and then try and feed it into the sheathing out to the end there, so that can be wired in. Other than that, it's a pretty straight fit. So I'm going to bolt it quickly, or not bolt it, I'm going to plug it in quickly to the heater, just to give you an idea of what it will look like when it's all fitted, and then hopefully that should be a pretty straightforward you know, how to for most people to look at. So back in a few minutes. Right, we're back. What I've done is I've extended the earth wire through the loom, which is a bit fiddly, all the way up to the power supply. So now the earth and the live are the same. So what I've done basically is I've just rigged it up really quickly to show you. So that's your transformer. Obviously that's going to be your 240 in, wherever you decide. So that comes down into the loom. The loom plugs into the heater with a single socket, and then around the back the oil pump again pumps in there, and then the last part of the loom, follow it up, excuse the tape, I'm not going to screw it in place, comes to your remote controller, which will be inside. So obviously I'll have to just drill a small hole through a wall to make sure that goes inside, and probably likewise with the power, I'll have to work out a way of doing that. But that is a very quick install, and I hope that that's pretty straightforward. One last thing, this vent pipe is, I think it's 74mm, and I used a hole saw, which luckily I had kicking around the workshop, and that is 81mm. However, that was absolutely spot on to allow the hose to slide through very snugly, as you'd have seen if you saw the other video. It's a very nice fit. So that was an 81mm hole saw. I don't know if you'll better read that, probably not, but yeah, 81, and that's just a cheap adjustable one from, I guess it's probably from B&Q, but that allows a perfect fit. So that is a short video on how these things go together. Now, my honest opinion of this one, although it's maXpeedingrods or maXpeedingrods, the kit isn't as good as the kit that we bought for the wife's office, which was a bit more expensive, but it's not as good. It comes with the rubbish plastic hose, rubber hose should I say. It doesn't come with the decent plastic stuff. It doesn't come with screw fittings. It comes with these spring clips, which aren't as good. There's not a lot of pressure in this system. There's no pressure back against it. Obviously that's just pushed in just to show where it goes through to the tank. But yeah, that was a bit disappointing if I'm honest. I would like to have seen some solid hose and some rubber fittings with the screw clips as per the last one. So apart from the fuel filter, sorry, not fuel filter, well yeah, fuel filter, which is supposed to be a better one, and the pump, which is supposed to be a quieter version, I'm not sure the extra money is worth it for this one. You'd have to price up a Chinese one, which I think about 100 quid, and this one which was 130 quid, and see if there is 30 quid's worth of difference. I don't know how much a filter is, I don't know how much a pump is, I don't know how much a few feet, excuse the car going past, a few feet of this solid hose are with some rubber hose. So price it up and see what it's worth you buying those extra parts to put to a cheap Chinese kit or not. To be fair, for 30 quid I probably couldn't be bothered to wait around and have them all come in. But that's the fitting of a cheap Chinese heater. This is a maXpeedingrods, which is a slightly different version, but that's the way I'm going to fit it. If you've got any comments or suggestions or things that you think I might have done wrong, there's a fair chance I probably have, then chuck a comment in, and I can do an update if need be, just to make sure that it all goes safe. But that'll be how it's fitted. I may do a video when I put it actually into the summer house, depending on how much time I get. Why is the bloody road so busy? Anyway, yeah, I might try and do a video a bit later, but I hope that's been helpful. Any questions, then please ask, and obviously stay safe. Remember to keep exhaust fumes away from inside, which is why this is being fitted outside. And I would also recommend you get a carbon monoxide monitor for any room that you have this in, just in case for whatever reason the gases that come out of there start being drawn through there, because you need to make sure that whichever the prevailing wind is where you fit it is obviously blowing that way, so it blows the gases away. So just make sure that you stay safe. Right, I hope that's been useful. See you soon.